In the winter of 1952, London believed it understood fog. Fog was part of the city's personality. It softened streetlights, blurred bridges, turned footsteps into echoes. Londoners were used to it. They gave it names, they joked about it, they walked through it without fear. But this fog was different. It did not arrive dramatically. It did not announce itself. It simply settled. On the evening of December 5th, cold air pressed down on the city like a heavy lid. Coal fires burned in homes across London, as they always had. Chimneys exhaled smoke into the sky, expecting it to drift away. But the sky did not take it. A temperature inversion held the air still, trapping smoke close to the ground. Slowly, invisibly at first, soot and sulfur thickened the mist. By nightfall, the city began to fade. Streetlights became faint halos. Buses crawled forward, their drivers leaning out of windows to see the curb. Pedestrians reached out to feel walls, railings, other people. Visibility dropped to a few feet. London was disappearing. At first, there was curiosity. Children laughed as they vanished a step ahead of their parents. Theatre-goers joked about the atmosphere. Taxi drivers relied on memory instead of sight. But as the hours passed, the fog did not lift. It grew heavier. By morning, the city was no longer merely obscured. It was sealed. The smog crept indoors, slipping under doors and through window frames. It settled in hallways and stairwells. It carried a sharp, acrid smell that caught in the throat. Breathing became effort. Hospitals began to notice something was wrong. Patients arrived coughing, wheezing, gasping. Nurses moved more slowly, their eyes stinging. Doctors struggled to see across wards filled with haze. Ambulances could not reach homes. Hearses could not move through streets. Milk deliveries stopped. Public transport shut down. London, one of the busiest cities in the world, had fallen silent. And still, the fog did not lift. For 5 days, the smog remained. Inside homes, people closed windows and lit fires for warmth, unaware that the smoke only thickened the air they breathed. Coal smoke mixed with fog until it became something new, something lethal. Animals suffered first. Birds fell from the sky. Cattle collapsed in fields near the city. Pets struggled to breathe indoors. Then people followed. Those with asthma and heart disease weakened quickly. Elderly residents grew confused, then unresponsive. Children developed chest infections that worsened overnight. Death did not arrive loudly. It came quietly, room by room. Families assumed it was winter illness. Doctors wrote causes as bronchitis or pneumonia. No one yet understood that the air itself had become poisonous. The government did not panic. Fog was familiar, cold was familiar, deaths in winter were familiar. London had endured wars, bombings, rationing. Surely it could endure fog. But this was not endurance, it was exposure. By the 3rd day, visibility dropped so low that people could not see their own feet. Drivers abandoned vehicles in the streets. Performances were cancelled because audiences could not reach theatres or breathe inside them. In the underground, smog drifted onto platforms. In cinemas, films continued to play through the haze. Life attempted to go on. Outside, the city was unrecognizable. The Thames vanished beneath a yellow-black shroud. Bridges dissolved into nothing. Big Ben's silhouette disappeared. London was present only as sound, footsteps, coughing, the distant ringing of bells. For those confined indoors, time slowed. There was nothing to see, little to do, nowhere to go. People sat quietly, listening to the city breathe, harshly, unevenly. On the 5th day, a breeze finally arrived. Slowly, Almost reluctantly, the smog lifted. London reappeared. Buildings emerged first, then streets, then faces. The city exhaled. At first, there was relief. Then there was counting. In the weeks that followed, mortality figures climbed steadily. Thousands more had died than expected. The numbers refused to settle. 4,000 deaths were attributed directly to the smog. Later estimates doubled that number. Some placed it higher still. There were no explosions, no collapsed buildings, no enemy aircraft, just air and the realization that something ordinary had become deadly. The Great Smog forced Britain to confront a truth it had long ignored. Industrial progress had a cost. Coal had powered homes, factories, and the economy. It had also blackened lungs, stained buildings, and filled skies. For decades, this was accepted. The smog made acceptance impossible. Public anger grew, not loud, but persistent. Questions were asked in Parliament. Scientists were consulted. Data was gathered. For the first time, air pollution was treated not as nuisance, but as public health crisis. Change did not come overnight, but it came. In 1956, Britain passed the Clean Air Act. Smoke-free zones were established, cleaner fuels were encouraged, chimneys were regulated. The air began, slowly, to heal. The Great Smog faded into memory. Londoners returned to jokes about fog. But something fundamental had shifted. The city had learned that invisibility did not mean safety, that harm could be quiet, gradual, unnoticed, until it wasn't. Decades later, the story of the Great Smog still feels strangely modern, because the danger did not announce itself. It blended in, it was familiar, and perhaps that is the most unsettling part. The Great Smog was not an accident in the usual sense. It was the result of habits repeated daily, systems taken for granted, warnings ignored because they were inconvenient. It reminds us that disasters are not always sudden. Sometimes they arrive patiently, sometimes they wait for still air, and sometimes they teach us, softly but firmly, that survival depends not only on what we can see, but on what we choose to notice. London did not disappear forever, but for 5 days it vanished enough to be remembered. And in that disappearance, it changed, quietly.